the verb first and the subject and the object. And they do have mutations. All modern Celtic languages have mutations. And Gaulish, in its late forms on inscriptions, shows evidence that it was about to be mutating its initial consonants. And when I say mutation, like the letter M would change into a V sound, M to B, and B would sound from a B to a B, like V and Victor sound, and so on and so forth like that. It's sometimes called aspiration in Gaelic because they put an H after the consonant.
So it sounds kind of like the same situation between the two Spanish, like the Spanish that Mexicans speak and the Spanish that the European Spaniards speak. They sound very similar, but there's a lot of differences in certain words. Like the word taco in Mexico is a food, and in Spanish, Spain, it's the heel of your foot. So that's kind of like what we're looking at with the three different Celtic languages.
Sort of. But you got to remember that Spanish, on the other hand, where the word taco in Spanish literally means a plug, P-L-U-G, a plug, and they use it to mean a plug of food, plugged into a tortilla. Whereas, I guess in Spain, they never developed that word because they didn't have tacos in their culture.
Oh no, they have the word taco in Spanish, Spain. It's the heel of your foot, but
right.
It's
it
completely
literally
different
means
from
a plug.
Yeah, it's a completely different context. So, but from what I understand is that the Spaniards absolutely dislike the Mexicans the way they speak the language because they feel that they speak it too quickly, and they kind of detract from the beauty of it. Is there that kind of rivalry between like Scotch and Irish speakers?
No. The difference between Scottish and Irish Gaelic is several grammatical features that are in Irish. A few of them do not appear in Scottish Gaelic. Scottish Gaelic is a little more progressive, whereas Irish is a little more conservative. And I speak more Scottish Gaelic than I do Irish. Because my ancestry is Scottish.
They're still being taught. I mean, you can go to like annex classes in colleges that teach those and learn these languages. They're not like dead languages like Sumerian and like way ancient languages.
Right. You can and Gaulish has been reconstructed from inscriptions. There's a lot of inscriptions of Gaulish language. So there's even a modern Gaulish. A fellow in Australia created a modern version of Gaulish, which is called which he calls I'm trying to remember what he calls it. It was called Galatica, I think is what he's calling it, because in ancient Gaulish it would have been called Galatica. And the ancient language of Galicia and Spain was Galician, and it was like too Celtic. It was kind of like an ancient form of Irish.
So it would be nothing like Spanish then at all.
Oh no, not at all. But indeed, today in Galicia they speak Gallego, which is Gallego, and they pronounce it Gallego, and it is actually a form of a descendant of Latin like Spanish, and it's very close to Portuguese.
Oh wow. Yeah, I've heard Portuguese and Spanish spoken together, and they have some similarities in the certain words, the way they're pronounced. But other than that, the Portuguese sounds radically different from Spanish from every time I've heard it spoken.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Wham, would you like to add anything? Trying to keep track of time.
Yeah. Well, I guess the thing that I would be most interested in knowing about is when I was looking at the copy of the book that Jeffrey sent me, one of the things I noticed is that the book is very, very centered on kind of, I guess reestablishing I mean, it's not that I didn't know this, but it seems like your book is working really hard to reestablish or reposition, or just and the reposition meaning because other people have done different things with Celtic materials, but really placing the Celtic people within the Indo-European context and how that's really, really important. And so, and again, I think from what I could see of the book, that's because a lot of things have been done and have been claimed about Celtic materials that don't reflect historically who these people really were, their origins. So what I'd like you to do is speak to why you felt it was so important to place the Celtic peoples into their Indo-European origins. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, the context of the Celtic peoples in the early works, if you look at the historiography of it, was that they were puzzled by the Celtic languages and cultures and thought that somehow they were pre-Indo-European, which is not true. In fact, even Stonehenge, which might have been started the first phase of it over 2000 BC, could be of Indo-European origin. In fact, there was a book written in the 80s or 70s called Stonehenge Indo-European Heritage. I can't remember the author's name, but you can still probably find it out there. But that in the Neolithic age, there may have been Indo-Europeans already on the coast of Europe. If there's a book out by Jean Marco, I believe Manco is her name, called The Bloodline of the Celts, and the DNA has been kind of traced as it went through southern Europe to the east. I mean, to the west, from east to west, and ended up there. So it could support John T. Cope's theory that Celtic developed in the west and penetrated into the east. Another idea about the Celts and their Druids is that the word derives from oak seer. And that was proposed by an ancient Greek like Posidonius, Athenaeus, and Strabo back around the 3rd century BC. But it really comes from an Indo-European root, Dru, or Deru, which in a 0 grade form becomes Dru, which means strong, steady, firm, steadfast. And then Wade, meaning to see. So it means strong seer. But there's a group nowadays called Celtic Reconstructionists. And the Celtic Reconstructionists want to reconstruct Celtic religion. And some of them have done a very good job of it. And usually they pick one culture and work on it. Like Irish is real popular because there's a lot of material in Old Irish and Middle Irish.
Well, I think that probably some of our listeners, and this is just based on people that we've had, in the past that have come on and that we've interviewed, I think some of our listeners might need or it might be benefited by knowing, for example, the difference between ancient Celtic religion and, say, Wicca.
Oh, Wicca, yeah. Well, Wicca was a lot of the remnants of folklore of England, and they were put together by some early Masons, Freemasonry, people who got in contact with people who knew the old folklore. And this was in the early 20th century, like the 1920s and 30s. And one Gerald Gardner kind of created a concoction based on the ceremonial magic that had been practiced by some Masons, and which comes from ceremonial magic, which is remnants of Rosicrucians and ancient Rosicrucians, and Freemasons kind of carry that stuff out. And that has Middle Ages origins. And he put that together with elements of the folklore, and he took a theories of Margaret Murray, who wrote back in the 1920s witchcraft in the Middle Ages and so forth. And they do ceremonial magic, which is casting circles and drawing down. It drew down spirits. It comes from ceremonial magic, which drew down angels and demons, and to do their bidding. So it was magic more than religion. And but Margaret Murray had the theory that the horn god was borrowed, which is from the Celts, actually, like Karen. But they also took the Lord and Lady, which is Freyr and Freya, and Teutonic religion, Norse religion, and kind of melded it together with ceremonial magic, and it became Wicca. And it took off in America with people like Doreen Valiente, who kind of was with Gerald Gardner, and Raymond Buckland, who came later, the late Raymond Buckland, who wrote Buckland's Book of Witchcraft or something like that. And Wicca employs usually the Lord and Lady, and they just ascribe the Lord to be a horn god, but that's the literal meaning of Freyr and Freya in Old Norse, and means Freyr meant Lord and Freya meant lady, and they were the Vanir of the Teutonic mythology. With Woden and Thor being kind of what they call Aesir. Edward Thorson, or Dr. Stephen Flowers, as he's now known as his real name, wrote some material on that. It was very exciting and very interesting. I'm not a Teutonicist or Germanicist, but I have read materials on that in order to compare with Celtic, because they had some similarities.
So basically, what Wicca, you're saying is, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish it.
Go ahead. Wicca is just a different religion from ancient Celtic religion. But a lot of people were believing that it was a quote old religion, end quote. But Gerald Gardner publishes witchcraft, modern witchcraft book. I'm trying to remember the title of it. In 1954, I believe it was, he came out with that. It was just a couple of years after they repealed the witchcraft laws, which came in the 1600s, I believe, and they repealed those laws, and he came out with that book. And a lot of people like Doreen Valiente and Gerald Gardner were calling it the old religion, Wicca. But Wicca is an English word. It's from Old English Wicca or Wicca, which means to bend, turn, or twist. And then there's the word Wicca, which means craft of the wise. So it's kind of a melding of different things together, and there's all kinds of different theories about it. But it's not really the old religion of ancient Europe.
So I got one. When it comes to the Celts and like the Vikings, was that happening at the same time or pretty far apart? Were there ever any clashes of them or anything like that? I know there was Viking Irish stuff for sure, but as far as history goes, what was going on at that time with both of those, Vikings and Celts?
Well, the Vikings began invading the British Isles for raids and things like that after a time when Christianity already made it into Ireland and Scotland, and ancient Britain had been Christianized right before the time of Constantine the Great, which would have been around the late 300s. So there was already Christianity growing. Paganism and Christianity kind of survived together for a few centuries, and Druids became Filii and Olives in Celtic, in Gaelic speaking areas, like Ireland and Scotland. And Vikings raided it. They were already Christians, and they would raid monasteries. They even raided England too, like Lindisfarne got sacked. And what they were looking for was treasure to sell off. And Vikings were merchants and pirates, and they were Norsemen from Norway.
So, what do you think about the whole Saturn Jupiter situation? Have you did any thought on that? That's kind of weird, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I'm kind of excited about it. I want to go out and observe it and see it. There's been I was reading on Facebook, Stephen Flowers was making remarks about it. The Magi of the Christian story were believed to be astrologers from the East, and they may have been actual Magi from Persia, another Indo-European priesthood, and they would put veils on their mouths and noses so they would not breathe on the sacred fires of Ahura Mazda, the wise Lord.
Yeah, it's definitely strange. I've been looking at it for a while, and it's getting closer every night and closer. So definitely keep an eye on it. I've never seen anything like that. The weirdest thing I've ever seen is Hell Bop, and that was just weird to watch when that all happened. But this is definitely interesting. I'm going to keep spying on it, like Norman Bates. I'm going to be watching, see what happens for sure. Hopefully they don't.
Well, yeah.
But so what
I'm
else?
sure the Druids
go ahead.
I'm sure. I was going to say, I'm sure the Druids would have observed it and thought it portents of an omen.
For sure.
And for sure.
What other books have you put out? Have you put out anything else, or is this your first book? You put out some other stuff, right?
I put out a book called The Truth About the Druids for Llewellyn back in 1992, and it was a work for hire. But I was so busy working for the Internal Revenue Service, I had a career there after I was a teacher. I was a high school English teacher, and I nearly got an MA in education, but I passed the exam to be certified to teach English literature. That I got a job doing that, and then eventually I quit and worked for the IRS to get better benefits.
Mm-hmm. And what else do you plan on to write another book? Is it always going to be Druids, or is there something else you may do in the future?
I'm going to write one on. I'm working on one on Celtic Christianity, which would be of interest to people. It's become a hot topic, and it's environmentally aware and form of Christianity in which they believe that nature and creation is the artwork of God. So it's a very interesting theology. It's slightly different from Catholicism, but it was a form of the vast Catholic Church of its day.
And who were some of is there like saints? Is that most of the characters in that? I know there's Bridget and stuff, right? Is that right?
Yeah. The Bridget is a very interesting saint because she gave away things, and she was venerated in Kildare, and she had sacred fires to her. which were interesting because there's an old Irish phrase, Inyan Andaha, which means daughter of fire, which may indicate that there was a cult of the goddess Bridget or breed in ancient Ireland. Of course, there was one, and her name means the High One. And then the saint has the same name, essentially, Breed, B-R-I-G-H-I-D, or B-R-I-D-E today, Breed. And they had sacred fires to her all the way up to the 1500s when Henry VIII destroyed the monasteries and abbey, you know.
Do they still have like her body or relics from her body or anything weird like that, like her burial place or anything?
I have never run across any story about her relics, or if they even know where she was buried.
Oh, okay. I know they have some of that. It's kind of strange, but definitely interesting when they, the relics of the saint, the jawbone of the saint. Who are some other of the characters in Celtic Christianity? What is it? Mostly saints, or who are some of the other people?
There was Saint Patrick, who was actually a Romano-British or Welshman who came to Ireland about the year 431, 432. He was preceded by a Palladius, who apparently was a Gaulish deacon under Saint Germain or Saint Germanus of Paris area in Auxerre, and then he was made a bishop by Pope Celestine around 431, and was sent to those Irish believing in Christ. And in the Latin, they use the word Scotus to mean an Irishman. That's another story about the etymology of Scotch.
With St. Patrick, when they say he ran out the snakes, so is that symbolism for something, or was it actual snakes? Do we know? I mean, what was the story about the snakes?
Well, there were never snakes in Ireland to begin with because of geology and environmental factors. But the story is probably symbolic of him marching pagans out of Ireland, or it could be, if you believe with, I think her name was The Festival of Lunacy by, I'm trying to remember the author's name. She wrote about it, and the symbolism is kind of like Lu running the Fomorians out of Ireland, the high god Lu of the long arm.
Okay, that's a sun god? Sun god, isn't it? It's like a sun god.
Well, I recently saw a cartoon. It said, "Who are people, Vikings fighting Irishmen?" Said, "Call Lu the sun god," and he did. And the Irishmen turned out they were pretending to be dead, and so no, he wasn't really a sun god. He was kind of like a counterpart to Woden and Varuna of Germanic Vedic religion, and kind of like Jupiter in the Roman religion, kind of like Zeus in the Greek religion. He had defeated the Fomorians, who were kind of like a set of divinities that opposed the gods and repressed them for a time, and then he freed them from their oppression.
Okay.
And the book I was trying to remember was I believe by Moira O'Neill.
Okay. What were you saying?
Moira McNeil, The Festival of Lunacy.
Okay. Yeah. What were you saying you were watching? What were you saying you were watching when they said that about Lou or whatever? Did you say a cartoon or something?
There was a cartoon where it showed on Facebook. I saw where it showed Celts fighting Germanic people, and the Germanic people said, "Lu is the sun god," and they got up from the battlefield because they were pretending to be dead.
Oh, okay. I was just making sure I didn't miss any weird cartoons. I collect those.
It made them laugh. Yeah, it made them laugh. It made the Celts laugh.
Cool. Well, let's see. Well, it's been great having you on. We really appreciate it. And what's your website? Would you like to give out a website address or anything?
Actually, I had a website for a while, but I kind of abandoned it. It may still be a remnant of it. It was www.druidiacta.net, I think it was. I don't even remember. But it's I haven't looked at it in years. But I haven't built another website.
Well, we appreciate it so much, Teresa. The book is Secrets of the Druids, From Indo-European Origins to Modern Practices. That's Teresa Cross, Cross. Check it out. And you can pick it up on Amazon. It's by Inner Traditions, or go to innertraditions.com. Well, we appreciate it so much, Teresa. It's been fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend, and we'll definitely keep us in touch on your next book. Take care. Good night.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Let's see here. All right. Well, there's a Christmas party, Jay, if you want to say after with JoJo. I may be too tired to do that. JoJo has the energy to do 20 radio shows at one time. Me, I do 2 hours, and I feel go into a coma. I'm trying to figure out how to there we go. I wanted to see if that little noise goes away. And I think what it is it's phones. Like, for some reason on Skype, like, regular phones act weird as crap. I don't know what it is, but I've noticed it. Like, any guests, we're just going to make it Skype only. Because we've had some...
It could have been radio, too. I mean, there's no telling. I mean, it sounded like the same voice every time. So either it was a really long conversation, or she's picking up a local radio station through her computer, or
like
whatever. I had braces. I actually would pick up radio through my braces. I would hear the radio in my head, and I would start going insane. And I turn on the radio, and that's what I hear in my head was exactly what was on the radio in the car.
Is that when you saw? Is that when you saw Bigfoot?
No, that was way after Bigfoot.
Radio in your braces. To do a whole show on that. What's that? Radio in your braces.
I had the braces. I was collecting radio off the airwaves. It was going through my braces, and I was picking up the broadcast in my head. I could hear, like, inner voices. Like, when you talk to yourself inside your brain, it sounded exactly like that. Then I would turn on the radio, and I would hear what I was hearing in my head on the radio. I'm like,
bro,
now I get radio in my head.
It's possible, anything, We had that glass break here, and we, nothing else is. Well, earlier the kitchen lights went off by themselves, and it's all these lights in the ceiling, and they just shut off by themselves. And it could be electrical, or it could be paranormal. It's still weird. Never just seen, like, it has a switch, like a kitchen light. Like, you turn on a light before you go to the kitchen. Just shuts off for no reason, like, just by itself. I had a lamp do that here too. Either it's some kind of weird wiring stuff, or it's that weird breaking glass ghost doing stuff again. It is odd.
In the electrical appliances, the switch or the outlets or whatever.
It's just weird. I don't know.
What's weird for me is my interaction with technology. I have to, in my new job, I have to do Zoom meetings. Like, I have, like, usually like one a day, and a lot of them are ones that I schedule. So so what I do is I schedule them for myself and for the people with whom I'm going to be having them through Outlook. Which of course is this email, Gmail function, and Outlook has this thing that it does, that you can set it with notifications, so that, when you're sending a notification, you're sending an invite to someone, then you can set it up so that, like, 10 or 15 minutes before the meeting, I set all my meetings up like a week in advance. So, about 15 minutes before the meeting is supposed to start, you'll get a little notification up on your computer, and it's got a little tone to it. It goes like doo-doo-doo-doo, whatever. Some of you may have heard it. I don't know if anybody does that. Well, I had this really weird experience this morning. Mine is set to warn me when a meeting's coming up when I have 15 minutes for the meeting. So 15 minutes before the meeting's supposed to start, I get a notification on my computer at work. So this morning, I'm asleep. And of course, since I have to get up for work this morning, I have my alarm on. So I'm asleep. And all of a sudden, I wake up and I hear that tone, that notification that there's a Zoom meeting. And it's exactly 15 minutes before my alarm is supposed to go off. So somehow I knew exactly what time it was in my sleep and woke up. But I woke myself up with the sound of that stupid Zoom notification in my head. It was like, I woke up and I started laughing. I was like, this is stupid. I hate technology because it does.
That's not as weird as it sounds, Liam. Sometimes when I go to bed, I'll program, especially when right now I'm temporarily out of work. But when I'm working now and I go to sleep, I program my brain. I say, well, I got to wake up in 5 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, whatever. And sometimes I will actually wake myself up in my last dream, with the alarm clock noise, that my alarm, that meet, and it snaps me right out of bed. And I look at the clock and I always think right away, oh crap, I'm late. I'm going to be late for work. But it's usually, I'm always like an hour, 2 hours way before work starts. But I do the same thing. My alarm clock goes off in my head and I wake up. So
yeah, well, yeah. And when I do that a lot, when I've like at different times in my life, when I've had to wake up to the alarm a lot, I routinely will wake up 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 10 minutes before the alarm, because I hate to be awakened by the alarm. I hate it. But what that means is that somehow I know what time it is on some level. And that's very strange, because I also believe that time doesn't really exist, and that our measurement of it is just based on the way in which we've partitioned our trip around the sun and stuff, you know what I mean? So it's just peculiar to us, but it obviously is really, really important. Well,
we do have an inner clock. I'm convinced of that. But yeah, you're right. And time is an invention of man. It's I watched it. Since I've been on temporary leave from work, I've gone through about 50 or 60 different UFO and paranormal videos over the last couple of weeks. And one of them, the guy says that time isn't linear; it's more circular, and the future is at the same point in time as the past, as is the present. So you can touch all of those points at once at any one point in the time-space continuum. So time and gravity. They found out recently, if you've ever watched the Bob Lazar videos where he talks about how the craft he worked on, how its machines work. He was one of the first to come out with the theory that gravity works in waves. And they've said that we know that light works in waves, sound works in waves, but time also and gravity work in waves. So almost every kind of electromagnetic energy has a wave to it. It's got a wavelength and a frequency. So it's not impossible to travel back and forth through time. But as we know time on planet Earth, you're right, ma'am. It's an invention of man, of how fast the Earth spins around in one day, and how fast it spins around the sun in a whole year.
Yeah. It's yeah.
Were you also aware? I don't know if you're aware of this. When I found this out when I was a kid, when I read Eric von Daniken's book the first time, the planet Venus, I believe it's the planet Venus, has a rotational period of like 226 days, and the Mayans have a calendar for a rotational period of 226 days, and they also have one for the Earth, which is almost as accurate as what we have today for the. They have it at 365.224 days, and our current calculation is 0.244 days. But anyway, their calculation for planet Venus is also the same gestational period for human pregnancy.
Well, the average. Yeah, the average.
On average.
Yeah.
I think we must have come from Venus, I guess.
Well, Venus figured in their their astronomical calculations, because they regarded the various phases of Venus, and Venus as the morning star and the evening star, and its various relationships to like the planet Mars in their cosmology, in their astrology, those things were really, really important. Venus plays, and I think what's interesting to me is that Venus plays almost exactly the same kind of role for the Mayans as Venus played for the Sumerians, ancient Sumerians.
Oh, I don't think it goes across all of the different ancient cultures, and
not really in the same way.
Yeah, she's in Greek and Roman, mysticism.
Yeah, but she's not. She's not
as important. But she shows up, and I think it goes.
She's a planet, so she's going to show up. But yeah. But she's not important. For example, in the cosmologies of Northern Europe, she's not that important in the cosmologies. There are some stories about her, but she's not as important in the stories of China, for example. She's important astrologically in India, in Jyotish, but what I mean by that is what I mean by comparing the Sumerians and the Mayans is that while all ancient cultures will recognize Venus, because like I said, Venus is a planet, so they're going to notice her, and she's very bright at certain times during the year, so they're going to notice her, obviously. That doesn't mean that they interpret her the same way. That doesn't mean that they assign the same series of significances to her. And the Sumerians and the Mayans are very similar in the significance that they drew to her. Their Venus goddesses were war gods, were war deities rather than love deities, which is really interesting. So it's. I don't say that they're saying that one culture derived from the other. I just find, because that's not necessary for that to happen. But it's just interesting to me when completely different groups come up with similar ideas. It's just interesting.
Yeah, I agree. But I think the significance is that maybe we've taken away some knowledge that they had. The fact that Venus has an average rotational period as the same as human pregnancy, that means that someone, not just the Mayans, someone else knew that it had to do with that gestational period. And almost all cultures have made Venus a female figure, whether she's a minor deity or a major deity.
That's true.
She's always female wherever you find her. So it's strange that someone back then had to have told them, hey, guess what? This planet in your system is the same length as it takes for you to make a baby. So
Okay, I got two things I want to bring up. One is a story my mom told me recently that I thought it was funny, even though it's kind of messed up. When she was 12, all the kids in the neighborhood thought aliens were coming to get the teenagers, and a rumor got started at school. And then there's this siren that goes off for some reason. I don't know what it was, but for some reason they changed the siren on that particular day, so it went off and it was a different noise. So they all start freaking out, thinking the aliens were coming to get the teenager. So it was like a little War of the Worlds situation. But I didn't know that. That's the first time I heard that story. And even though it's scary, I'm sure on some levels it's still a little funny. But just freaking out, thinking aliens are coming to get the teenagers, and then the sound goes off at night and you're terrified. So I guess it's bad on some levels. So I shouldn't laugh about it. But anyway, the other thing, the Alfred Weber thing, which I don't really like him. He doesn't really like me. I questioned him about the Obama, time travel thing, and he called me a cabal Satanist and all this stuff. And I guess if you disagree, you're a Satanist that works for the cabal just because you disagree with someone, which is just crazy. But anyway, there was this guy on the show, and his name's Gary Anderson. I think it was one of his recent shows. And the guy's on there, and For some reason, I watched it because I don't normally ever watch the shows. I don't even think I've sit through one. But what I did is I saw what the guy was talking about. It was about the conjunction and everything. So I listened to a little bit. Well, this guy goes on and says that 10-something p.m. Pacific time, that when this thing conjuncts, that basically if you have love in your heart and with the forces of light, that you will merge to the new planet Earth. And if you don't have empathy for people, you will merge to the dark planet Earth, the old Earth. And that he said that exactly that time a walk-in's coming in and he's going to leave his body and go to the new Earth, but someone's coming in to replace him. And basically new colors and new leaders are coming, and it's all going to like happen at once, right there at the conjunction. And this dude's dead serious. I guess Weber believes it too. I don't know. But if you listen to it, it's like, it reminds me of Heaven's Gate and stuff. But it was weird. But it's Gary Anderson or something. It definitely was crazy as hell. But
were these guys drinking the grape and orange Kool-Aid from Jonestown?
I mean, the guy was serious. Like, new colors are going to happen. Everything's going to change. And it's like, dude, what are you smoking on? Doing some of that good stuff, some of those psychedelics. Like, I mean, I can believe that it has some significance, but that this is going to happen instantaneous and rainbows are going to appear and all this crazy. I just want to let you know in case it happens, you know.
It sounds like the same stuff they said about in 2012, that, you know, the 12th or 21st, the planet was going to end. And, you know, and I was just saying throughout the whole year, it's not the end of the world. It's not Armageddon. The Mayan calendar is cyclical, and I think it's a 3,200 year cycle for the calendar to go from A to Z and back to A. And that's what December 12th, 2012 was the calendar ran one full cycle, and it's starting back from zero again. That's all it is. It's the end of a calendar, not the end of the world. And people were just freaking out all over the planet about it.
And I'm just going to watch it. And it just looks weirder because of our viewpoint, our vantage point or whatever. But as far as the other big news, which I don't give no spoilers, Jay, as I don't know if you've seen it yet, the last episode of this season of Mandalorian. Did you see it yet? The last one?
No, it's in my
I'm watching it after. And I don't want to give too much away, but the dark side took Baby Yoda.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw the last episode where Moff Gideon grabbed him. Yeah, grabbed him. So, but I was right. I told you that we were going to see the actual Boba Fett again, and we did that episode. That was pretty good.
Boba Fett's back. Boba Fett's about to team up to go get Baby Yoda from the dark side.
And he repainted his armor too. It looked good. I liked it.
You seen the dude, the villain guy, Moff Gideon or whatever? That's the dude from Breaking Bad. You ever see Breaking Bad?
No, I've seen him in another show where he plays a bad guy.
Always a villain.
Yeah, he plays a great villain. His name's Giancarlo Esposito, and oddly enough, one of the many 60 or 70 UFO videos I saw, he narrated one of them. So I'm like, why is he on this? You know, and he's the guy who's talking.
That's weird. If you see that again, send it to me. I wouldn't mind watching that. I know he's going to be in that new Far Cry game as like some South American dictator, and he's the same guy that's in The Mandalorian, but he's going to be playing a part in that Far Cry, the new one, whenever that comes out. I have no idea, but I saw the trailer for it. He's like some South American mean dictator or something, but he always plays villain. Gets every villain role for sure. And he had the Darth Vader armor on or whatever. It was weird. Why does he have a replica of Darth Vader armor? I guess it's just
he's wearing a TIE fighter armor.
Okay, like the black suited
black TIE fighters, yeah, the TIE fighter pilots.
Cool. I saw this stuff that Mandalorian dude, whatever his name is, Pedro Pascal, whatever, I don't know, that he was having trouble. They were having fights on the show because he wanted to do scenes without the mask. They always wanted to have the mask on. But what's weird is they just did an episode where he takes that mask off when he's not supposed to because the code says you can't take your helmet off or whatever. But there's specifications or whatever, or loopholes. I mean, obviously, because he did it. But somebody said that it was because he was mad and he was tired of doing the show with that mask on all the time. So they gave him some scenes without it or whatever. Seems like it was true, but I mean,
think it's a new rule though, because if you watch the was it Rebels? Star Wars Rebels cartoon, the Mandalorian girl on there, she was taking her helmet off all the time, constantly. Like when she's on the ship with her friends, she had her face exposed. So I think that's a new aspect.
He's one of the extremist Mandalorians.
Yeah.
Live by whatever, the code, whatever, the older code or whatever. I don't know.
And he's a really good actor. I don't know if you've seen any other things he's been in.
I just want Baby Yoda. Goku.
If you like Pedro Pascal, I recommend that you see the second Kingsman movie, Kingsman Golden Circle. He plays a bad guy in that, and he's pretty good. And I also just saw the Equalizer movies. It's a movie version of the TV show from the 80s with Denzel Washington. And in the second movie, The Equalizer 2, Pedro Pascal is the bad guy, and he fights Denzel Washington's character at the end. So if you haven't seen those two movies, go look at them. They're pretty good.
They're saying they're going to give Boba Fett a movie, maybe his own movie, but we'll see what happens.
Boba Fett.
The real dude that plays Boba Fett just died. I forget his name, but it's like the real British dude that played him in the movie.
Jeremy something or other. Jeremy Bullock, I think, was his name.
Yeah. I did just pick up a Christina for Christmas and stuff, the Immortal Hulk comics, which in the Immortal Hulk comics, they're like H.P. Lovecraft meets the Hulk. They're really weird. It's like they're new Hulk. I've never read Hulk comics in my life, but I was reading about them, and it's like H.P. Lovecraft horror meets Hulk. He like goes to outer space and all this crazy stuff. But I was flipping through it. It looks crazy as hell. It definitely wasn't what I was expecting. It looks really weird. So I'm looking forward to the Immortal Hulk. Well,
you have the Tasmanian Devil on.
Yeah, I have a Looney Tunes shirt from Walmart. It's got Coyote, Yosemite, Roadrunner, Tasmanian, Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, Sylvester, that little bullfrog, whatever his name is, Tweety, Bugs Bunny, and that's it, I think. Now I'm thinking of that Bugs Bunny cartoon. There was one I saw that was really old on YouTube, and me and Christina watched it, but I don't want to get into this subject, but it was really racist. Like there was a black character, and I was like, man, what the hell?
They can be, yeah. If you see that old stuff, yeah, they can be really shocking. I'll never forget the first time that I saw the original Fantasia. Have you ever seen the original Fantasia?
I believe so.
When I was a kid.
It's got like 2 or 3 moments where it's like, whoa. I mean, the racism is so, it's like, whoa, and it's so weird. It's so weird because I know that at the time when it was originally done, nobody thought anything about it at all. Or at least white people didn't think anything about it. I can't claim to know what black people thought about what they were saying. But it's like, it was normal enough that people didn't notice or make comment about it. Most of the audiences that they would have queried about such things, if they had queried anyone about such things.
Yeah, that was a trip. I just couldn't believe it. But I mean, I'm surprised it was still on YouTube. Really, I'm surprised that YouTube didn't get rid of it.
Well, apparently what they've done with Fantasia is that they've retained. I mean, they have the original version, but for audiences now, because of advances in digital technology, they've changed it for modern tastes.
Yeah, they have new ones now. I think on HBO Max they're making new ones. I haven't watched them yet, but I may watch them eventually. Unacknowledged. That's that Stephen Greer thing, right? I never watched it, but I've heard of it.
I think Stephen Greer. Yeah, Stephen Greer, Carl Sagan's in it. It's about the Disclosure Project he started.
Okay.
Lots of UFO researchers are in it. It was pretty good.
I'd watch it for Giancarlo Esposito to talk about UFOs. I would watch it for that, for sure.
It was a good one.
He was the chicken guy, cartel man in Breaking Bad. And he was all the time doing hits on people and Walter White and all that stuff. But I don't have my schedule right now. Trying to think. I got one of these. We got one of these projectors. Dr. Js Projector, And what it is you can hook it to a phone or a hard drive, and they're only $100. They're usually $130. There's $100 on Amazon, and it's a projector. It comes with a big screen, and you can put it on your wall and do like a drive-in. You can hook your phone to it. I have hard drives filled with crazy UFO documentaries. I could just plug one of those in it and do it wherever. I guess they've finally been doing that projector technology for so long. They're mass producing them and selling them cheaper or something. I was surprised it was only $100, but that thing's pretty cool. It came with this big giant screen that you hang up, and you can basically do a drive-in wherever you want. We can do it in the garage, back porch, but $100. Really surprised me. I got it for a Christmas birthday situation from Christina, but we're going to use it soon. And the Dr. Js Projector, they're on Amazon, but pretty cool if you want to have a home drive-in weird experience. You could set it up and sit in the garage or something with your car like you're at a drive-in. Like it would let you do that.
I actually looked those up for a long time. Not that specific brand, but on Amazon, there's like whole kits you can get with like inflatable screens and other like regular type screens that you have. Like you actually have to put the mount up and stretch the screen on it for outdoor like backdoor movie night. So that's pretty cool.
I was just shocked that it was not that expensive. I'm sure a long time ago they were a lot more expensive.
I think the most expensive system I found with the projector and the screen and audio system was like maybe $550, at the low end.
This was $100, but you save $30, but it has like amazeballs reviews from everyone, like 5-star reviews and stuff. So it's really good. We're gonna mess with it at some point. I want to watch some weird slasher movie on there or something like you have to drive in. Get it going. But this neighborhood, everybody's got their Christmas lights out, and we're having hologram Christmas light wars on our garage doors. Those weird little things that make, shapes. Mine does geometric shapes.
Yeah.
The neighbors only do little fuzzy dots, but mine does intricate crucifixes and weird stuff. I wish it did weirder stuff, but it doesn't. But it does some cool stuff. One looks like a cross or something, but it dances and all this stuff. And then the neighbors, they have one looks like they're doing planets on theirs or something. It's weird.
There's one projector like that we sell at the store that I work at. I forget the brand name, but they have it for Halloween and Christmas. There's 2 different versions, but both versions have the images come from a memory stick. So you can buy the Halloween one, and then down the road you can buy a memory stick for the Christmas stuff, and just use the same projector. You just take one stick out, put in, and it has like 4 or 5 different types of things you can do, like snowmen floating around or face of Santa Claus, etc. And then Halloween's like bats and skeletons and whatever.
Cool, that's neat. For sure. Do any of y'all remember Gilbert Posey? Is a black dude that came on about UFOs experience?
Yeah.
I couldn't remember. Maybe it was Wham that was there, since you remember. Yeah. I've been looking for him. He hasn't been on his Facebook in forever. I'm wondering if he might have passed away, but I don't know. But I know he hasn't been on there in a long time. So I was looking and seeing what was up with that. But
he was the guy that had sort of the paranoid experience, right?
Yeah, he's kind of like the Samuel Jackson dude.
Yeah.
Like an old Samuel Jackson.
Yeah.
like Black Snake Moan, Samuel Jackson. But
yeah, I remember him.
I want to interview more black folks on UFOs. Have you come across any more stuff on that subject, Webb?
Well, I have, but getting folks to talk is another issue entirely. I mean, it's like I actually, even where I live right now, I have met a number of people, not only African Americans, but people of color, various backgrounds, indigenous, Puerto Rican, etc., who all have sort of their own traditions about these things and their own experiences, but getting them to sit down and actually agree to do an interview is another thing.
Yeah.
It's like I was able to talk to some folks for my book. I was able to talk to Sacred Owl, who is a Puerto Rican background for the book. But that's about it, I mean, and when I was doing my dissertation, that was an issue too. The only reason why I was able to get some of the accounts that I was able to get is because I befriended a couple of people in Kansas City, Missouri, and through them were introduced to a bunch of other people. And, so I sort of developed this sort of, way into the communities. And you have to have something like that in order to really enter into those communities to talk. It's kind of like, Artie Six Killer Clark is able to do that with Indigenous people because she's Indigenous herself.
Yes.
So she can, they're willing to talk to her. I don't know that I'd be able to get those kinds of stories from people myself unless I had sort of a inside track, like I had for my dissertation. So that's just the way those things go, but yeah, I mean, it would be nice to have, more paranormal experiences.
For sure. And well, hopefully, I know there was a black guy, I don't remember, Michael Carter or something, but he wrote a book on, that name may be wrong, but he wrote a book about UFOs in the Bible, and I saw it on Amazon one day, and then I went to look at it, it was gone. I don't know if he's still around, but I know he's been on some big shows. I'll have to dig a little deeper, see if he's still around, but maybe they put the book back up. I could have swore it was Michael Carter or something like that, but it was he did a book about UFOs in the Bible and all that, and because I remember I was gonna grab it. I was talking to some dude named Sunbow. I need to write him. He's friends with Kawani and all that, and does like weird Sasquatch channeling books, and like their names are weird, like Kamoosh and weird stuff, like Sasquatch Kamoosh has a message for us, which. Who knows? I mean, he may be talking to him. I don't know. He looks like he's out there talking to something. He's got a Willie Nelson situation. And he looks like he goes to the woods and stays there forever. But he seemed pretty neat. He does speaking things. And they never put out like DVDs of those Sasquatch conferences. Like I would buy those to see them at home or whatever when they have them. I know like Ken Gerhard and all those people, they're always going to those conferences, but I never see like, DVD sets where you can get them. I don't know why they don't record it or anything, or maybe they just can't afford to do it, or it's pain in the butt. I don't know. And you got to put it on DVD and all that crap. So I know Ozark Mountain does it, so I'm sure it's not the easiest thing. I got to check and see when theirs is happening again. I know they canceled it, but they're supposed to have it again at the beginning of this year or sometime. I need to check it out and see what's going on. I've already scheduled it for January, scheduling for February. Don Webb's supposed to come on at sometime about his vampire book. I spoke to Jeffrey Silman on the phone. He's a real life exorcist. He's supposed to have me take a picture of the house so he could do a clearing. Mm-hmm. Then I didn't hear back from him, so I need to recheck back and make sure the house didn't eat him. But he's busy, so he said he'd come on the show again. I know he's been on before, but that's Jeffrey Silman. I know in 2017 he went to Amsterdam, was like hanging out with people from Genesis, that band and stuff. So he knows how to party. Oh, sure. Genesis, baby. That's right. But Phil Collins still sing for them. Phil Collins is still alive, ain't he?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay. I know Peter Gabriel used to sing for him, and then I love Peter Gabriel, but I guess he quit or whatever, and then Phil Collins or something like that.
He left the band. His first album was the Peter Gabriel album. He's the song Salisbury Hill is about his leaving the band. Phil Collins was the drummer, and he moved up to singer. And Tony Levin, who's played with Pink Floyd, Yes, King Crimson, moved into the band as the bass player when Peter left. And then since then, Tony Levin's played with Peter Gabriel. He's played with Phil Collins. He's one of the best. I mean, everyone loves Les Claypool. And don't get me wrong, I'm a bass player myself. I like Les. But Tony Levin, if you ever get a chance to watch him, whether he's by himself with his brother or with his Stickman group, go see him. If you come to a local bar near you, get out of the house and go see him. He is fantastic.
Stickman, that's the name of it.
There's an instrument by Emmett Chapman called the the 10-string stick. He's also got now an 8-string version, a 10-string version. He's got some other guitars. They're touchboard instruments. It's just like an oversized guitar neck that's about yay wide, and you play it across your chest, and you tap it like a piano. You just hammer on the keys or on the strings. And Tony Levin has he's playing a 12-stringer now, but he holds this thing like this, and he looks into the audience, and he never, ever, hardly looks at his stick, and plays it like a piano with the strings, and it's fantastic. Look it up on YouTube. You'll be amazed. It's the coolest instrument I've ever seen. It's a hybrid of guitar and bass. You can play rhythm guitar on the bottom strings. You can play huge walking bass lines on the top strings. It's really, really neat.
So what's that weird instrument? Looks like a UFO. You ever seen it? They go beep, 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 beep. Looks like a big metal UFO, like a big hubcap.
You mean the thing that they you kind of tap?
Yeah.
I think there's an oval shaped tongue drum. It's made out of metal. It looks like a kind of UFO shape. But there's also that, I forget the name of it, but there's that machine that they used. It's an electronic device that they used for the beginning of Star Trek that makes kind of the woo sound.
That's a theremin.
Theremin, that's the one. Yes.
Theremin. Yeah. No, that's. I think that. Let's see here. Let me see.
I know I've seen it. I'd like to get a tape of it, a CD of it, just listen to it.
Yeah. Let's see here. It's called a hand pan.
A hand pan.
Hand pan. The reason I know that is because a friend of mine just purchased one for herself.
Wow, how much do those cost? Do you know
that? I do not know.
I
do not know how much they cost. I figure it's probably varies by size.
So what's up, Jay? You gonna go to the Christmas party after the show?
Oh, I might. I don't have anything else really going on. I got to get some.
We need
more
a representative. I'm supposed to watch Baby Yoda, and I have to do some other stuff. But with the dog and stuff, I gotta let him out.
Can you see that?
My dog's been acting crazy.
Can you see that?
What is that? Is that a hand pan?
That's exactly what I was talking about. It's a tongue drum. It's got little keys on it.
Tongue drum. How come one's $35 and the other one's like $500?
Yeah, a tongue drum is usually, or it's also called a log drum. It's a piece of wood that you cut keys out of the top, and it's a hollow box, and you hit it like a xylophone. Bill Bruford of Yes and King Crimson, he plays one. And these things are the same thing. It's like the reverse of a steel oil pan drum that the reggae bands play. Instead of it being concave, it's
just touch it. You just touch it.
It goes mallets. No, you hit it with mallets.
Okay. I know I've seen videos. I think you can do hand too.
You can probably hit it with your fingers too, but mallet makes a better sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the hand pans that I've seen are the ones they're like, they're made so that you can hit them like this, and they're tuned. So kind of like steel drums, except that I have seen people play them with their hands. So
probably do both. I'm sure. I don't know. They look cool. I've seen videos.
Like that?
They sort of look like that. Yeah, they sort of look like that. Except
there's a different one I've seen, but that's similar.
But you can actually they're actually like, and they're different sizes. I mean, some are like, I've seen some that are like kind of like this big, and some that are smaller. But they have like the sides are more indented.
The one I've seen looks like a UFO. That does sort of. It has like an indenture, like a thingy, like on top.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's. I mean, it's all different kinds. If you go to Amazon and type in hand pan or tongue drum, a whole bunch of them will show up.
Well, what's that weird Aztec death whistle called or something? I remember one shaman guy talking about
those are Aztec death whistles. At least the original ones. I mean, I know that they're making like replicas of them, but apparently what I've heard is that they were little tiny, they were whistles that were about this big, like maybe, like a couple inches tall. And they were made in order to produce kind of a shrieking sound. And they were used in ceremonies, and they were used in war, and they were used for certain kinds of ritual behavior. big old spider just walked down my wall. I'm sorry, I got distracted there.
Spider and Whams.
Oh, let me tell you, the house belongs to the bugs. You know, you notice I don't even get up to get it. I just let it go.
I had a situation where my books and stuff were still at the other house where my mom and stuff is at, but there's real bad field mice. So I went in there and some mouses had some fun and hurt one of my books. So I about had a PTSD panic attack. There's traps in there now, but they're arseholes when it comes to books, buddy. They will mess up some stuff. Like,
well, it's because they're making houses. They're going like, oh, paper. I guess I'll chew this up and make a house.
I try not to hurt things, but I had to put out the hardcore. I had my brother put out traps. I don't like using them, but that's just too much messing my books up. I'm sorry. I could be peaceful to a point, but when you're in there messing up the books, that's not good. I'll pick it up and eat it like Ozzy. I'm kidding. I won't. But System of a Down is I've discussed this. Finally made some new music. You can check it out on YouTube. I think it's Genocidal Humans or something like that. There's 2 different songs, but they did it to generate money for Armenia. They were just attacked where he's from and everything by Turkey, I guess is what it is. But they were attacked, and he did it. They haven't made music in 15 years, but Serge Tankian, the singer, has done solo stuff and all that. But you can hear those songs on YouTube. I meant to send $10 to them or something. Hopefully I'll do it eventually. But either way, I'm helping by it, telling people to go look at their new videos and maybe donate something to their. It's for Armenia and all the crazy war crap going on over there. I guess it's with Turkey, right? Turkey's harassing them all the time.
Something like that. Well, yeah. I mean, it's been. Yeah, I mean, Turkey. You know, at the beginning of the 20th century, Turkey basically tried to kill everybody, sort of during a nationalist binge, and committed a series of war crimes against Armenian populations. So it's kind of
bad Turkey.
Probably
better leave my Serge Tankian alone. He's got a cool voice. They better chill.
I mean, here's your
death whistle. Whoa, that looks like a chicken.
Whistles.
Like a chicken head.
Yeah, their skulls. There's one that's like a human.
Is that eBay?
Etsy. They're on Etsy.
Yeah, there are people that are making replicas of them.
Yeah.
They're not that hard to make. Apparently.
This one looks more like a bong than a whistle.
They're creepy. I meant to get one year. But they're neat looking. I know I remember that guest, I forget his name right now, but he was on a shaman guy, Roberto, or I have his audiobook. That guy with that audiobook I gave Christina, remember the shaman audiobook? It don't matter the name. I'll figure it out sometime. But he talked about that whistle, that Aztec whistle situation. For sure. I remember it. Jeffrey Silman and Don Webb, I got to write them soon. Oh, something I'm doing. Jerry Avalos, who's been on the show many times and I've known for many years, we're making a video game. And can't go into too much detail, but I've seen they want me to help with the story. And basically it's going to have UFOs in like an arena, and you have different races of aliens, and you have to fight and shoot each other and like gladiator kind of stuff, but you're in a UFO. I've seen some footage, and they just want me to help with story and stuff like that. They're going to do a Kickstarter. So I'll reveal more of that as we progress into next year. But I have a meeting Sunday at 7 to talk to them about stuff. I'll just be doing story ideas and stuff. Because I know a lot. That's why he came to me, because I know a lot about, over the years hearing all this weird alien stuff. Because they want to have a little comedy kind of thing going. I want to go to some dark comedy and have some UFOs fighting. One's going to be, I've already seen some blueprints, Palladians and stuff, and reptilians and little grays. You fly your little UFO around and pew, 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 fight each other. Like Twisted Metal. Remember that game, Jay? You've seen it, Wham, with the cars and the little clown?
Yeah.
Something like that, but with aliens. Oh, the Twisted Metal, that game with your cars.
Oh, no, I know that one, yeah.
The name, I'm not allowed to say the name yet, I don't think. So
the coolest card game I remember was Steve Jackson's Star Wars. You ever see Steve Jackson?
What was Steve Jackson? Car Rules?
Steve Jackson pocket game. It's called Car Wars. It was like a game book, like about yay big, little pamphlet book. And you made a little car, and you would put on it weapons, guns, machine guns, and what have you. And the idea was it was like a race around a map, and it was a race for speed, who goes across the finish line first, and it was a crash-up derby at the same time. But there was also pedestrians, so it was like Death Race 2000 as a game. So you run over a pregnant woman, she's like 5,000 points. You run over a clown.
That was a video game? Or
no, it was a
role-playing game.
No, it's a desktop paper, pen and paper game, and you got
like
points for running over people.
Dungeons and Dragons, like Dungeons and Dragons or something. That's sick. What kind of smut have you been playing? That sounds like Grand Theft Auto or something.
Yeah, well, this is from way back in like the 80s.
That's you gotta roll dice and get together in your pajamas and play that weird Mad Max Gladiator card game.
Yeah, kind of, sort of, but not. And so it wasn't a role playing game per se. I mean, you had to build your card, and you had like a piece of paper what your card had on it, like what machine guns and how much gas it could hold.
I'm going to tell you one of my Dungeons and Dragons secrets right now. Okay, this is a story. I don't know if I've ever told it on the air. I used to be a dungeon master in high school.
Yeah, you said that.
Yeah.
And I know I've said that, but one night I was playing, and this guy, I'm not going to say his name, but I killed his character, and he got so mad. He held a knife to my car tire outside. He was going to slash my car tires.
Oh my God.
I killed his D&D character, and he was so mad and angry. And we didn't play with him no more.
I played all through college. I started playing in '77, but I played all through college, and my characters died all the time. I mean, constantly. I usually always played a cleric who's like a second-tier fighter. So, you usually stand behind your big fighters, like fighters and paladins and what have you. But I died so often that my friends that I played with dubbed me the tissue box character. So, because I'd always have like 3 or 4 written up, because at some point I'm going to do something stupid and die. I'm like, oh, okay, here's my new one. Introduce them when you can.
I
died almost every session. My character died.
There was some article all these Hollywood star dudes get together and play. I forget who it was though.
The Stargate cast, all of Stargate
SG-1, Superman or something.
Stargate SG-1, Richard Dean Anderson, the guy who played Dr. Jackson, the guy who played Teal. They would get together at the guy who, I forget his name, the guy who played Daniel Jackson in the TV show. They all would gather at his house and drink beer and play Dungeons and Dragons like all day until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
That's what we used to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same here.
Some serious dice rolling up in there.
You should see my dice collection. I actually collect dice. And
you still have dice?
Oh, yeah. I've got like a little tackle box, like about yay big, just full of dice. But there's a Star Trek convention in Baltimore that I go to, and every once in a while they have these really big D20s that are made out of metal. I've got 2 out of the 3 colors. I'm kind of get the last one. But the coolest thing that I found out about it is I have dice in my dice collection for when you're at any kind of a game session, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons or just any kind of board game session. It's for randomizing your pizza products. So if you order pizza and no one can agree on whether they want cheese or onions or garlic, you take these dice, you roll them, and it tells you, it has everything on it, including like anchovies, stuff you wouldn't like. So there's 2 dice with like 12 different toppings for pizza.
That's weird.
That's not weird. It's actually cool.
I like Warhammer. I've never played it, but I played the video games. I know it's based on a role-playing game. You like these space dwarfs. It's like Lord of the Rings in space.
Yeah, it's a miniatures game. You play with little lead figures. There's tanks and machinery and siege engines and stuff. My friend, one of my gaming buddies, he plays that all the time.
Wham, you ever play any role-playing games ever?
Oh yeah, when I was in junior high and high school, I played with I played with a group. This was in the late 70s, so I played. I was one of the guys whose house we played at. His brother was one of the people who was responsible for creating Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
So whenever they would get like a new iteration or, a new, whenever they do something different, we were like one of their unofficial trial groups. You know what I mean? Whenever they try something
you
new.
You played with the creators.
Yeah.
How many people could say
Who was
that?
it? Arneson?
Genuinely, yes. So we got in on stuff before it was published. And so we were kind of like one of their, like I said, experimental groups, but it was not official. It was just sort of like, hey, we're going to publish this new whatever. You guys want to, we would come up. I wouldn't so much. I'd mostly just play, but like it was his younger brother who was part of our group. So he was usually the dungeon master, so he was the one that would try out some of his brother's ideas, and we'd work on them. It was interesting. Most of my characters died too. I tended to be either a really stupid paladin, or sometimes I was a cleric, sometimes I was a mage, but I was never a very good mage.
A paladin. A paladin is like, I will smite you with my sword. Oh,
they're a combination of fighter and cleric. They have at higher levels. They have spells they can cast, like healing spells. But they're one of the strongest characters if you play them right.
Paladin's like Superman in a knight outfit or something.
It's basically your European knights.
Like Templars or something.
Yeah, Templars, or closer to like the Knights of Round Table kind of knights. Holy good. They will always jump into battle. They'll never run away from a fight. That kind of. I
love Ravenloft. You ever play that for Dungeons and Dragons? That's the one with vampires.
Yeah. Ravencroft.
Like Dracula kind of stuff. Ravenloft.
It's Ravencroft, isn't it?
Ravenloft.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there was this, and then I was in high school when it was published, and I think I still have it somewhere, or maybe it's at my mother's house. But there was this board game that was played that was sort of a combination between it was called something. It wasn't called Sword and Sorcery, but it was a sword and sorcery type of game. But it was a combination of role-playing games, like D&D, but also like war games, so it, how war games are more structured. There's like actually a board and all that kind of stuff. And so it was like a cross between those two, but it had characters in it that were from Monty Python's Holy Grail, and it had the Tim the Enchanter, was one of the characters in this game, and it also had like villains it had like Daleks, from Doctor Who. So it was like a weird combination of all this other stuff, and we used to play that too. I actually purchased a copy of it for myself at one point because it was so hilarious.
What is it? What's it called?
It was called something like, I want to say Sword and Sorcery, but I don't think that was the name of it. I think that it was like something, a sword and sorcery game or something like that. I'll have to see. I either have it or my mother still has it at her house.
Yeah, let me know if you figure it out.
If I find it, because it was actually a lot of fun. Because it was, it was one of those things that you could do if you wanted to kind of do some role playing, but you didn't have 10 hours or 15 hours, to go on a quest. You like maybe only had 3, so you could like play this and get some of that good juju stuff, and be amused at the same time, and have all these cultural references from Doctor Who and Star Trek and Monty Python and the Holy Grail, all kind of mixed together. It was bizarre. It was.
Wham, you're gonna like this because I don't know if you're aware of the story, but it was I think it was their second movie, Holy Grail, but or maybe it was their first, I don't remember. But the studio that produced it for them didn't want to give them money for horses. So what did they use for horses?
Yeah, right.
They used coconuts. So I have my Monty Python the Holy Grail coconut horse right here. I forget where I got those, but they were cheap, and I was like, I gotta have them.
Is it Monty Python official merchandise?
No. It's just some dude took 2 coconuts and put a string through them, and you can do horse noises with it. But I do have a good joke with these. I don't know if you guys can hear it too well, but what makes this sound?
Coconuts. 2
Bang!
Coconuts.
And you hitting weird stuff on your desk.
It's a horse, and someone shoots. It's an Amish drive-by shooting.
Oh.
Oh no. I know. I don't think all Amish are mean. I think there's good Amish, of course, but I know I saw this crazy show once. It was like an Amish reality show, and it was crazy as hell. It's like gangster Amish people and stuff.
Amish mafia.
And they're supposed to be real like Amish people, and I'm sure they're not a representation of the entire Amish community, but they were scary and weird. It was like, MC Malachi, yo, we're gonna go shoot up.
Crazy. Amish communities where I'm at, and they are an unusual people. There's 2 groups. There's the Amish, and then there's the Mennonites. The Amish don't do anything modern. They have no electricity. They don't use. I don't even think they use the mail system, to be honest with you. But they don't drink coffee. They don't drink Coke. The Mennonites are a little bit more modernized. They drive cars. They use electricity. They build modern houses. But the thing about them is most of them are really nice, humble people. But for the most part, the thing is that they grew up in a closed community, so they really don't know how to socialize with people outside of their sphere. So when they come into my store, we try to help them. They're like, no, we're fine. But it's because they socialize differently in their group, in their close community. So I don't know if it's because they don't trust us. The weird thing is that they're of Dutch German descent, and they call us English. So if the clothes we wear is English clothes, the things we do are English, like drinking coffee and dancing and whatever the devilish things we do as being English.
The English. I didn't know they did that, but it doesn't surprise me. Okay, we got about 4 minutes left. They're having a little Christmas shindig after the show. I may peek there. I have to check out my dog. My dog has been acting just wild. I don't want to say anything too bad because I don't want to make it worse for my words, but he's getting older. And, I have to put him in a kennel because he will use the floor, and I don't like putting him in it, but you got to because he can't use the floor. But anyway, you'll get him out of the kennel, and he'll just start running around in circles around you with the leash and just starts trying to jump on the couch, and he misses. Like he'll be 5 feet away and try to jump and smack his face in the floor. He has dementia or something, but it's kind of sad. But he's been around me a long time. Hopefully, he's got a while left, but he's definitely in angry grandpa mode for sure or something. He's just out of control.
Well, and the reason he's missing the couch is maybe because his joints are hurting. There's this thing you can get. It's like I think it's called chondroitin. You can get it for older cats and dogs, and it's either in a powder or pill form. And you either put the powder in their food, or you have them force the pill down their throat, and it helps them for jumping on it. Because my cat is a Maine Coon, and I named her after a Dungeons and Dragons dungeon, the Blackmore dungeon. But she has the same problem. She tries to jump on the couch, but she misses. She doesn't have enough power, enough energy in her legs